Welcome back for a new top 10 list. And this is a special top 10 list. Top 10, in my opinion, 10 of the most underrated PlayStation 1 games of all time. Now, in the future, I may do another one or two of these lists. In the future, I may do a second overpriced PS1 games as well. For you PS1 lovers out there, this first up, some honorable mentions. In my opinion, some games that I do recommend people check out. One is a game I just recently got hold of and started playing, and yeah, I think it's underrated given I've never seen anybody on YouTube talk about this game. First of the honorable mentions is called The Bombing Island, or Islands, I should say. Basically, it's a puzzle game with platforming elements. It's definitely unique and different, and to put it, why I say also underrated, found this mint condition on eBay, $5 in perfect condition. That should say that no one's looking for this game. I just lucked out on it. One day I bought from a seller that was selling a bunch of platformers, and I bought like 8 platformers off the guy. All really cheap. First honorable mention. Next honorable mention I recommend if you're a fan of Patman and you like old school arcade style games but with 3D graphics. Next honorable mention I recommend Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness. A criminally underrated game just like the Pac-Man World games in my opinion. But seriously, get a chance, check out Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness. It's a true love letter to the old school original Pac-Man games from Namco. Next honorable mention is another great action platformer in my opinion, that is the original Croc. I need to eventually get a hold of Croc 2, which I've never actually played. I've only played Croc 1. It's a great game. I really recommend if you love platformers, give this game a chance. You can get it for a very reasonable price. And seriously, do yourself a favor. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. If you, like me, grew up with platformers, 3D platformers, this is probably one of the best 3D platformers on the PS1, in my opinion, anyways. So take that what you will. Next is more of a hack and slash horror game. In my opinion, the game deserves a lot more love than it gets, and that is Nightmare Creatures. This is a game that I have always had a deep love for. I never played Nightmare Creatures 2. I need to get around playing it. Probably Dreamcast version because it's considered to be the best port. But seriously, if you've never played original Nightmare Creatures, play it. I believe this also had an N64 port, so if you don't have a PS1, but I recommend getting it for PS1. Great music and everything. I love it. Even for it being nowadays considered a guilty pleasure. Next up, underrated game, one of the best puzzle games from this era, and that is the sequel, as it even says on the front cover, sequel to Myst. This is Myst 2. Great game, underrated. Yeah, hardly anyone ever talks about the second Myst game. Most people only talk about the first game or the fourth game, which was also released on original Xbox. This is a great one, so it's the sequel on the PS2. Last two honorable mentions, in my opinion, one of the best platformer games or based on a movie tie-in, but nostalgia for me blinds me probably a little, but that is A Bug's Life. I think the movie is underrated of Pixar films, but to me this is a criminally underrated, is a great platformer in my opinion in general. I'm surprised more people don't talk about this game because it is one of easily the best games based on a movie, in my opinion anyways. And last honorable mention is a great hidden gem of a fighting game on the PS1, and that is Evil Zone. Evil Zone, an amazing anime style opening. You can tell it's very 90s from the art style, the music, but I love it for it. And I love the fact, if you look at a lot of the art style of the characters, very similar to that of anime series such as Tenchi Muyo. in Tenchi Universe, Tenchi Tokyo. With that said, coming at number 10, though it was a greatest hits, I still think this game is underrated. It is one of the best, in my opinion, Jet Fighter games on the PS1. It was one of the first 5 games I ever played on PS1 was this. And obviously not a lot of people are interested, given I got this for 99 cents on eBay. I love this. I like a lot of the music. It's a really weird game. It has like live action cutscenes, which is funny, but this was a time period when that was kind of the norm for a lot of games. But seriously, check out Warhawk. It's actually a really fun game. Coming at number 9 is a little game that I already mentioned the series about. Coming at number 9 is Pac-Man World, which is a great 3D, and in fact it even includes like a mode where you can play the original Patman game, as you see in the top corner. But seriously, if you've never actually played Pac-Man World, do yourself a favor and check this game out. It's very cheap. Pretty much all the Pac-Man World games are dirt cheap. You can easily get any of them under $10, no problem. Coming in at number 8 is, in my opinion, one of the best, probably my personal favorite, 3D beat-em-up. It really was a love letter to the old school beat-em-ups, and that is Fighting Force. Now, I repurchased this game back about 5 years ago. Got it brand new sealed for 15 bucks. So that says it's maybe gone up a little bit since some YouTubers have covered this. But this is a game me and a friend of mine would play the game together. And we had probably spent, I'd say, close to 100 plus hours just doing co-op mode multiple times. Because this is a game you can really have a lot of fun playing as a bunch of people. Yeah, it's a 1 or 2 player. I recommend playing it with a friend. It's just a lot of fun. Next, coming in at number 7 is a criminally underrated, amazing game by Squaresoft. This is, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked games from this time period of the 5th console generation. Now, everybody has their opinions when it comes to Square games. Now, this game does take place in the same universe as some other games, such as Final Fantasy 12, if I remember correctly. But seriously, check this game out. It's a lot of fun, honestly. It's got a good challenge. I love the unique art style it had, because for this time period, this was a very different art style for most Square games, especially in the 5th generation. Coming at number 6, some people probably would consider it underrated, but in my opinion it is, and that is Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, which is an amazing game. You even have like Darkstalker characters, not just Street Fighter characters, which is why it's called Puzzle Fighter. But basically, it's what happens when you combine a fighting game with Tetris, is the perfect way to describe this game. And you can still get this game for a reasonable price range, and I'm surprised you can still find this for a good price, but that says to me about it being more underrated. It's not a high in demand game as of yet. It's not like Gym Fighter, which has definitely gone up in price over the years. Coming in at 5 is, in my opinion, the best sci-fi series of the 5th console generation for me. If you like space exploration fighting games and stuff, or rather space shooters and stuff, with a good solid story in my opinion, graphically this game blew anything else of that time period out of the water. Now, believe it or not, From Software was involved in the making of this game. A lot of the same people that worked on the Armored Core series worked on this series, and that is Colony Wars, but specifically I love the first Colony Wars game. This is an amazing game. It was a 2-disc, and graphics blew me away at the time period when I first played this game, and when I played the demo of this on a Jam Pack demo disc years back. Seriously, if you've never played Colony Wars, give it a shot. It's great. Coming in at number 4, speaking of From Software, the granddaddy to the Dark Souls series that predates by far, and that is Kingsfield. Now, technically, this is actually Kingsfield 2, but it was named entitled Kingsfield. Now, fun fact, this is the only long box PS1 game I actually own. So, it took a long time, and this game over time has definitely started going up now. On average, I'd say this is going for about $50 to $70 now. But it's probably because the Dark Souls series and some of the Souls fans probably have learned about this game's existence over time. To me, this was the first From Software game I ever played. It wasn't Dark Souls. It was Kingsfield. This is in my opinion, still a criminally underrated, a great first-person style RPG game, and yet was definitely an RPG. 100% through and through the way gameplay and everything worked. Coming in at number 3 is a game I've talked about a couple of times now. If you like a lot of tactical RPGs, you're going to love this game. I like the art style. It definitely has a bit higher difficulty curve compared to other tactical RPGs of this time period. Specifically, probably one of the best well-known being the original Final Fantasy Tactics. An amazing game, but if you want a little bit higher difficulty, I recommend this. But keep in mind, this game is really going for a lot of money. Check out my previous list of top 10 overpriced, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I looked down and got this several years ago for a much more reasonable price since it didn't come with the original case and stuff. I got discount. So yeah, you have to be pretty darn lucky to find this out in the blue for a good price. So good luck. But seriously, I believe you can get this digitally on the PS3. I'm not 100% certain, but if you do get a chance, play this game. If you like good tactical RPGs with a decent difficulty curve, I recommend this. Coming in at number 2, you hear the music in the background. I've done a review and a couple gameplays of, and I constantly recommend this game, and that is D Strega. One of the most underrated fighting games of all time. Worldwide, this game sold less than 25,000 copies globally. So that should say, this is not a very common fighting game to find. You can still find it for a reasonable price because there's not a real demand for it. But it has really quick, responsive gameplay, and the whole open arena style for fighting. This game was, in my opinion, years ahead of its time. Released in like 1998, though a lot of the concepts it used would not really be adopted until like the mid to late 2000s, like almost a decade later. This game was ahead of everything else, even had a full story mode. PS1 era fighting games never had a story mode until this. This is, to my knowledge, the first fighting game I know of with an actual full story mode, even if the dialogue and the voice work is pretty bad, but you have to consider the time frame when it came out. It was a low budget developed fighting game, keep in mind. So I like it for those charms, same way I like the original Resident Evil for the bad voice acting. Coming at number 1, though it did sell decent, I'm surprised how more people don't talk about this RPG. In my opinion, it is probably my second favorite Square game on the PS1 by a landslide. Only game I would put higher would be Final Fantasy VIII. But for me, number 1 underrated PS1 game, Chrono Cross, the sort of sequel to Chrono Trigger, which is a lot higher regarded. Like Chrono Cross, hardly anyone talks about this game, and that amazes me. For me, I actually like Chrono Cross more than Chrono Trigger, and I love Chrono Trigger, I'll be honest. But if you're curious about this game, you can get it very reasonable price, probably $20 to $30 range, so it's still pretty dang cheap in comparison to its older brother, Chrono Trigger, which any port of that game keeps going up, no matter what. But that is, in my opinion, 10 underrated PS1 games. But with that said, leave a comment below, tell me what your thoughts are, and I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel. Stay safe.